Russia reacted sharply, mentioning World War III as Mr. Trump warned Putin was playing with fire. Just weeks ago, Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin had a phone call discussing prospects for a peaceful resolution to the Ukraine conflict. Both leaders described the call as productive. However, just a few days later, on May 27th, in a post on the social media platform X, U.S. President Donald Trump stated that what Mr. Putin didn't realize was that if it weren't for him, a lot of really bad things would have already happened to Russia. I mean, really bad. He's playing with fire. This statement came amidst reports that Mr. Trump was considering imposing new sanctions on Russia this week as Russia continued its attacks on Ukraine despite the White House's mediation efforts. Mr. Trump's remark was also seen as a shift in the U.S. approach to Russia in the conflict with Ukraine. Later that day, State Department spokesperson Tammy Brooks also emphasized that Mr. Trump's statement was not a sign of the U.S. president's frustration, but merely him being transparent about his political views. She suggested that this was something the president should take seriously, and that the American people surely felt the same way. She also stressed that Washington continued to support direct negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. U.S. President Donald Trump threatened Russian President Vladimir Putin, saying he was playing with fire without clearly explaining what that meant. This provoked a very strong reaction from Russia. Not to be outdone, Deputy Chairman of the Russian Security Council Dmitry Medvedev posted on social media platform X, publicly rebuking Mr. Trump's threat. Regarding Trump's words about Putin playing with fire and really bad things happening to Russia, I only know of one really bad thing: World War III. I hope Trump understands this. The comment came after U.S. President Donald Trump repeatedly criticized leader Putin. Prior to that, Mr. Trump had condemned Russia's recent large-scale attacks on Ukraine, despite ongoing peace talks. Mr. Trump stated that he always had a very good relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin, but according to him, something had happened to the leader. He argued that Mr. Putin was senselessly killing many people, and he wasn't just referring to soldiers. He added that missiles and drones were targeting cities in Ukraine for absolutely no good reason. Mr. Trump declared that the Russian president had gone completely insane and accused him of targeting the neighboring country with recent attacks for no reason at all. The head of the White House even warned that Russia could collapse if Moscow wanted all of Ukraine. I've always believed Vladimir Putin wanted all of Ukraine, not just a part, and perhaps that's slowly becoming true. But if Mr. Putin truly pursued that, it would lead to Russia's collapse, President Trump added. Mr. Trump asserted that the conflict would never have happened in 2022 if he had still been president. He claimed this was a conflict between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin, and the then-current U.S. president was Joe Biden, not him. He emphasized that he was simply trying to extinguish the large, ugly fires that had ignited due to incompetence and hatred. In response to Donald Trump's statement, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said on May 26th that the U.S. president's remarks were the result of emotional overload. Mr. Peskov stated that the Russian side was truly grateful to the American people, especially President Donald Trump, for their efforts in organizing and initiating the negotiation process to end the conflict. However, he emphasized that this was an extremely sensitive moment, linked to the emotional overload that everyone was experiencing, and this led to impulsive reactions. Up until now, Mr. Trump has shown increasing impatience and frustration with the Russia-Ukraine peace talks, as America's mediation efforts in recent days have yielded no breakthroughs. He criticized both Russia and Ukraine. He also expressed disappointment with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, suggesting that the leader was not helping his country by speaking the way he currently was. Every word he says causes trouble. I don't like that, and Mr. Zelensky should stop immediately. Mr. Trump wrote on social media. In response to the criticism, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said on May 26th that Russia appreciated U.S. efforts to bring about peace, including reconnecting direct negotiations between Moscow and Kyiv. Explaining the recent large-scale airstrikes on Ukraine, Mr. Peskov said these were in response to Ukraine's drone attacks targeting civilian objects on Russian territory. In a statement on May 27th, the Russian Ministry of Defense said that although Russia had successfully initiated direct negotiations with Ukraine, the Kyiv government, supported by several European countries, had taken provocative steps to undermine the negotiation process. According to the agency, in the past week alone, Russian air defense systems destroyed and intercepted over 2,300 Ukrainian UAVs. A large portion of them penetrated deep beyond the front lines. The Russian military added that there had been a significant increase in Ukrainian attacks on Russian territory, including Western-made drones and missiles, since the beginning of May. In response, the Russian military will continue to conduct large and coordinated attacks, responding to all provocations from Kyiv. The ministry stated that Russian forces retaliated with high-precision missile and drone attacks, targeting Ukraine's defense, industrial, and military facilities. The back and forth between American and Russian leaders has not only heated up the political atmosphere, but also raised questions about the future of peace talks, as both sides demonstrate rigidity and uncompromising stances. The risk of escalating conflict cannot be understated. Mr. Medvedev's warning of a third world war has raised concerns about a worst-case scenario. President Trump's mediation efforts have yet to achieve the desired results, while new sanctions could escalate tensions. The international community, especially European countries, is closely monitoring the situation, hoping that the parties will soon find a way out to avoid a global crisis. The confrontation between the US and Russia, marked by words that could lead to military action. This could lead the world into a new phase of instability. Whether leaders can restrain themselves and bring the conflict back to the negotiating table remains a big unanswered question. The war of words between US President Donald Trump and high-ranking Russian leaders also shows a lack of consistency in dialogue strategy and clearly reflects the current level of tension in bilateral relations. What's concerning is that statements like "Putin is playing with fire" or warnings about a third world war are no longer just symbolic phrases. A social media post is not merely a personal opinion, but also a diplomatic signal, a message to allied countries as well as strategic adversaries. On Russia's side, constantly rebuking and issuing strong statements shows that Moscow is not willing to concede, especially as they accuse Ukraine of escalating attacks on Russian territory with Western weapons. On the other hand, Russia also seeks to affirm that it remains ready to engage in negotiations as long as there are no provocations from the opposing side. This puts the US, in its role as mediator, and the country providing the majority of military aid to Ukraine, in a difficult position. It must maintain pressure to protect strategic interests, while also trying to maintain its mediating role. Meanwhile, the international community, especially neutral countries, or those directly affected by the energy and economic crises due to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, cannot help but worry. Many countries are calling on all parties to exercise restraint and return to traditional diplomatic principles instead of continuing to use threatening language. President Trump's past intention to mediate was hoped to reduce tensions, but his recent statements seem to have broken that initial trust. The current situation is very fragile and could quickly slide towards confrontation if the parties do not have the goodwill to control the conflict. When personal statements are elevated to a national stance, the line between policy and emotion becomes more dangerous than ever. The world does not need another war and certainly cannot endure a third world war, as Mr. Medvedev warned. Instead of continued escalation through rhetoric, leaders should return to the fundamental values of diplomacy: caution, sobriety, and prioritizing human lives above all political calculations. Only then will peace have a chance to be preserved in a world filled with daily uncertainties. If you found this content helpful, please hit like and subscribe to give me more motivation to create more videos. Thank you so much, everyone.